Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We've got our Warrior Wednesday podcast today. Ted Hoeger from Accuracy Dynamics is with us. I thought this would be a really interesting video, not just because I cut my eye teeth on rifles, marksmanship that way, and so I have a fondness for it, but it would be really fantastic to have local resources. Whoops, we do. So let's not overlook them. We've had a lot of fantastic national guests and whatever else, but the truth of the matter is we've got some hometown heroes, and I hope that doesn't make you blush, Ted. So thank you for coming on with us today on Warrior Wednesday. Why don't you explain to us what Accuracy Dynamics is? I'll go ahead and share that screen here, and let us know what it is and what it's about, and we'll delve into it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Accuracy Dynamics is a long-range rifle, precision rifle training company that I've kind of started here in Iowa. Mostly as an adventure to help people that want to hit targets at farther distances do it easier and more consistently, right? Long-range precision rifle is not missing 3 times and then hitting your target. It should be hitting your target the first time you try to go after it. So that's the name of the game, is to keep it simple for long-range shooting, because long-range shooting can get really complicated with a lot of different parts and a lot of different little nooks and crannies and pieces. And I try to break those things down. I've studied this stuff long enough to know what's the important parts that we really need to pay attention to, and what are the not so important parts that people like to spit big words and make it sound interesting that maybe we really don't need to pay attention to. So Accuracy Dynamics is local here in Iowa. Almost all of my classes are in Iowa. We do travel some when people ask us to. We've gone as far as Texas, and I've actually been to Italy and taught classes there as well. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Long-range shooting is quite a bit of math, a lot of science, a little bit of art, and just a little piece of magic in there with it, right? And that's what gets you to put bullets on target at a long distance. That makes it fun.
Well, I'm with you. I always take a little bit of luck. Unfortunately, luck is inconsistent, and inconsistency will not serve you well when you're using or when you're relying on precision. So what was the motivation? I'm curious. Where did this begin? Did you always have a passion for it, or if so, or if not, how was this stirred?
Yeah, so altogether, my long-range shooting passion started back in 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in that time frame, when I really started researching it, looking into it, trying to figure out how it worked and what we could do to hit more targets at distance. At that time, I really hadn't shot a whole lot yet, but kind of found it on the YouTubes, when it was brand new, and started watching it and started studying a lot of it. And then in 2018 or 19, I got my first long-range precision rifle, and found what was the Precision Rifle Series, and started avidly competing in the Precision Rifle Series. And right now I travel around the country doing that. I shoot anywhere between 20 and 25 matches a year. Between that, teaching classes, and then hosting some matches, I'm on the rifle range about 30 to 35 weekends every year, where I'm staying busy with it. So shooting the PRS series is where I really got to grow and hone my skills, right? Targets at different distances, different positions. You become on a clock where you have to be able to get things done quickly and still hit targets at distance. I would say the Precision Rifle Series is really what made the whole spark happen and the flare go, and then just able to understand it. I did a lot of research. I studied a lot. I think I can understand this stuff really well, and I thought, why not take the opportunity to start some type of training and help other guys be able to do the same thing? I was a brand new shooter in the PRS. I had a pretty good grasp on it, but I always knew there was ways to get better. And I took a lot of classes from other people as well, right? But in Iowa, this is a state that mostly grows up with hunting with shotguns. Yeah. Right. We never had a lot of rifles you couldn't hunt with. So people in the state of Iowa just really kind of don't have a lot of rifles for long range shooting purpose. So finding training here in the area was a little bit difficult. There were a few guys around that I was able to get training from, but then I decided to just kind of start doing that as well. And in teaching long range rifle shooting, you start to find out you have to truly and deeply understand every part of it. And that's where we've gotten to now, is being able to do every part of long range shooting, to be able to talk about those topics and pass them along and get other people to understand them as well. So, Michael, do you know what the PRS is? Have you heard or seen much about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar. So the precision rifle series is that stuff is all coming. I shouldn't link it to movies like Shooter or American Sniper or all these others. But to be honest with you, I've been running in precision rifle circles for so long. I mean, when Frank Golly started Sniper's Hide eons ago, I want to think that I was member number, gosh, maybe 800 or something like that. And I don't know how many people are on those forums now, 40, 60,000 or whatever else. I don't know. That's been a long time ago. So I was running and participating in those circles then, but it has absolutely become very popular in the last 6 to maybe 8 or 10 years. I mean, it's unbelievable, the growth, and it's something I didn't anticipate. It's something I wouldn't have predicted. I cut my eye teeth on a pencil barreled 300 Win Mag with a heavy duplex 3x9 reticle on a heavy trigger. I mean, I had absolutely nothing, Ted, that I needed, and no help, no way in Southwest Iowa in the boonies to get anybody to give me a hand. And so I marched right out there and developed all kinds of bad habits, tons of them, So it took me years of diligence to move beyond some of those things, and I do okay now. Sometimes I do well. Sometimes I hand what I think is a fantastic weapon to somebody, and they smoke me. So I still have a long ways to go. But yes, I know what you're talking about, and I have enjoyed that shooting discipline for a long time, and so I'm very familiar with it. I enjoy it, but its popularity has increased. I'm interested, or I should say, I'm curious. Did you have a firearm background as a pup or growing up? Did you have exposure to those kinds of things or not? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up as a kid, when I was, I remember being probably 4 or 5 years old, sitting in the tree stand with Dad while we're hunting, right? Like, always been around guns, grew up hunting, always been around firearms. Mostly, I would say, in the hunting circle. I never really got into a lot of pistol or carbine action. Just kind of wasn't for me. But a lot of the hunting circle and my long range stuff, I would say, even started there. Prairie dog shooting, going out west. And that kind of thing is really where some of that long range stuff comes in. But yeah, I always grew up with guns in the house, taught safety, taught how to safely handle them, how to hunt with them, that kind of thing. So yeah, always had that around. Yep.
It's fun that you mentioned prairie dog shooting. That's where I personally took my passion to the next level, and it wasn't something planned. I had you go out and shoot coyotes and do some of those other things, and nothing that I was doing was very long range, nor did I really have the equipment. But after I started going prairie dog shooting for weeks at a time with friends that had done it before me, and I started picking up the right kinds of armament to do that, my shooting skill greatly improved. And I started learning, because we were going to southern Wyoming, where it's the winds there is eerily similar to Iowa, where you get all kinds of different winds at different directions, and it's crazy. So I started actually learning about wind and following the bullet, so to speak, paying real close attention to exterior ballistics, and it really improved how I shot it. And I think that's natural, Ted. I mean, if you're going to go to a place like that with quite a bit of wind and varying temperatures and lots of different velocities and directions, and you're going to shoot 4 or maybe 7,000 rounds in a week to 10 days, you're either going to get really good at this, or you're going to find out this is not for you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of in between. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. And that's what really, really made me want to sink my teeth into it, rather than just be a rifleman by self proclaimed moniker. It was something that was, something that you could prove, or something that where you could perform. So it's fun that you mentioned that. Now my background at all wasn't like that. We didn't grow up in a family that did a lot of shooting. My dad did almost none, but my aunts and uncles and my grandfolks all hunted deer in Missouri. So we'd go down there and do that.
Yeah, the prairie dog thing was interesting when I got into that one, it was probably my first real long range opportunity. I had a neighbor that invited me to go out to Montana. I just had a 22-250 with a optic on it that didn't have, no bells and whistles, and it was I don't know, probably a 4-16 or something. We went out there shooting prairie dogs, had fun, really enjoyed it. But as we're doing it, my brain's starting to think there's got to be an easier way to hit these more consistently, right? And I'd already been kind of looking into the long range shooting thing, and I knew about scopes with turrets and dials and all those things. So the next year we went back, I had done my homework. And the first year we were shooting prairie dogs probably out to 300 yards kind of thing, but it was Kentucky windage stuff, by gosh and by golly. Hold about this high and hold about this much wind. Oh, you missed that one a little bit. Add a little more and you might get them on the third shot, right? But then going back the second time when I had the correct optic, I had done my ballistics, I had a calculator, I had charts set up. We had a better rangefinder to be able to range dogs better. And the first day we were out shooting and I was pointing out prairie dogs further out, and I said, let's get that one, and we'd range it, and I'd dial and I'd shoot and I'd hit it on the first shot. And my neighbor, who'd been doing it for 20 years, after about the third one, looked at me and said, you're just showing off now. Like, but that was just the science and the process working, right?
Yes.
Having a defined range. There was no more need to be like, oh, I think that's about 320 yards. No. I can get a rangefinder out and I can range that and know it's 366 yards.
Yeah.
No more estimation or guessing, but we can actually get a real number. And then being able to look at a ballistic chart, dial a turret up, so that I no longer have to hold over or guess how high I am over it. I can basically re-zero my turret for that distance, 366 yards, aim right at the prairie dog, and now make a wind call left or right. And a couple of different wind systems that you can make a pretty quick wind call in your head, be able to say, hey, I need to hold 2 minutes left for this one, and dang it, bang, it would whop, and you got it. And that was a whole lot of fun when you actually saw the science start to be applied, and now you're hitting everything that you're aiming at, and it just keeps getting further and further distances to try to push that number farther and farther. I think that year the farthest we shot a prairie dog was around that 580 yard mark. And got that one. And now I think him and I both have shot prairie dogs out to that 700-800 yard range. I won't say that was where the first shot, but we were able to connect out there to get them done. So yeah.
Every now and then you get a lucky one, and sometimes you get a lucky one twice in a row. I was having a really good day. Things are going well, and the wind was pretty consistent. And my brother and two of the guys we were with are like, you see those two prairie dogs on the mound way out there, so. And I did, and so I used a rangefinder, and I had a pretty good idea what was going on. Although sometimes you don't get as much reflection as you would like to, and so you sometimes question just how accurate what I happen to be using was. I can't remember, some sort of, it was one of the early Leicas, the LRF 1200 or something like that. Worked fine, but a little hard to depress the button anyway. So I had a pretty good idea what I needed to do, and I sent one, and I hit him. And they're like, how far is it? I said, it shows 702. And like, oh, you can't do that again. So his little buddy was right beside him, So I tried, and I got him. And, they're like, wow. Now, they didn't know that I was suppressing the desire to jump up and turn cartwheels, because I didn't think I could do it. And I promise you, Ted, I promise there was no way I could do it a third time. No way. So 2 times in a row at a pretty darn good distance with a relatively small object, I was feeling pretty darn good about it. But that was the time to hang up your spurs. So I did put the rifle away. I did fire up the cigar, and I let those guys shoot the rest of the afternoon because I didn't believe there was any way, if challenged, I could prove up. So sometimes when you win, shut up and smile,
And this hunting situation, right? I have a lot of people come to me wanting to do this exact thing. They're going to go on an elk hunt. They're going to go on a mule deer hunt. They're going to go someplace out west to do some type of hunting, and they come to my classes or stuff saying, this is what I want to do. I don't necessarily want to shoot an elk at 800 yards, right? But they want to make sure that they're comfortable inside 300 already, but they want to be able to get to that 400, 550, maybe 600 if they have to, right?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of shooters that come to the classes that are after that information, and in my classes we always shoot out to at least 800, right? Under a controlled condition, usually prone, We're gathering data for your rifle to be able to set up a ballistic program. And at the end of that class, most of those shooters, when they come around, they're pretty confident. Anything out to that 500-yard range, they're probably going to be pretty comfortable in the right conditions to be able to make that shot. Right now, I should say with hunting, I do think the number one rule for especially long range hunting is number one rule is if you can get closer, you should get closer.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's no need just to attempt a shot because it's got some extra distance to it. So long range hunting always has a little bit of a some people think it's okay and some people don't like it and some people think it's unethical. And but I think as long as you're making the right choice for yourself and your distance, what you're comfortable and trained for shooting, I think that's an okay thing. As long as you've done the work to back it up, you place a good shot, it's an all right thing. But a lot of shooters come to my class for that kind of thing. And we spend a whole day, most of the day, just training fundamentals. Understanding a ballistic program is the other part of it, right? But if we can train fundamentals, it's a really good thing. I have a lot of shooters that come to me that say, I've shot rifles all my life and I'm a really good shot, and they're expecting to hit all the targets. And then as we get through the fundamental stuff in the morning of the class, by the end of it, they're kind of saying, this is a lot different than what I thought it would be, right? Fundamentals for long range precision shooting are a lot different than fundamentals from shooting your AR-15 or sometimes even a pistol, right? It's even different than what a lot of guys were taught in the military 20 years ago, because now everybody's running with a bipod on the rifle instead of having to support the front of the rifle. We're able to use a bipod and square our bodies up different. That changes grip, trigger control, changes where the rifle meets you at the body. Like, all this stuff is different from what a lot of guys have learned. So
yeah, I'm glad to hear that there are more hunters interested in that. It's obvious to the people that I work with and that I build rifles for that are going on safari, because most of them are great distances and come at great distances from Iowa anyway, and come at very, very high costs. They understand the true cost associated with going and doing that. But it's not uncommon for me to have folks that come in here that want a rifle built that's lightweight, that they're going to take west out into elevation. And maybe they'll skimp on the optics, and I'm like, oh golly, please don't do that. And I'll talk to them. Have you taken any precision rifle classes? Why would I? I'm like, oh man, I don't think that you've added us all up. So, and some of the guys have, but that many don't. And I'm like, do you realize that this elk hunt's probably a $15,000 or $20,000? No, it's not. It's like $4,000 all in. I'm like, no, dude, it isn't. You've got a weapon here, you've got ammo, you've got all these other things. You're paying an outfitter. You're taking 2 weeks off work. You've waited 12 years buying up points to get here. Start doing the math. This is a very, very expensive hunt. And you may not be fortunate enough to shoot right down the hill 115 yards at one. You may have to almost be peak to peak, or shooting down into the valley, or vice versa. I'm telling you, you'll benefit from spending a few $100 here and a few $100 there to truly prepare for this. And sometimes, Ted, they just won't do it, and I feel bad. And sometimes they do well, sometimes they miss. I had one customer, unfortunately, his outfitter made him, as is not uncommon, the outfitters actually make you shoot for them so they can get an idea of your ability. And he essentially flunked. They're like, you don't shoot well enough. It's highly likely that you'll miss or gut shot an animal, and we're not doing it. And they wouldn't take him. And so he came back really, really upset. I'm like, well, all right, that may be, a little embarrassing, but you can change that. Get in a class and school up, and you'll go back out there and you'll do fine. So I don't know whatever became of that, but there are a lot of people who won't take you when you go west if you don't perform. So it's an aspect of this that I don't think anybody considers very often, Ted. I'm glad you offer it. Now, before we move forward with that, let me share a screen here that I think's relevant. I'm going to share our trusted partner screen. So if any of you are wondering about things like this, real quick, we have a cadre of trusted partners on Iowa FC's website. And so that's iowafc.org. That's IFC's site. You can go down through there and you can find many of the businesses that promote IFC and that we promote right back. You can find places to buy the equipment. You can find places to train. You name it. You can get all the things that you need from there, and we're adding trusted partners all the time. So go down through there and take a look. There are a whole bunch, and we've got more on the way. I have several in my inbox right now that I need to process. So keep in mind the trusted partners. And if you need anything there, everybody who's listed offers some sort of discount or value. So let's move forward, Ted, into what comes next. So you're offering these classes. You've honed your skill. You're helping other people hone their skill. So what comes next?
Well, I think through my classes, I have 3 different levels of classes, right? And that might be the next thing to go to.
Okay.
My first class that we offer for Accuracy Dynamics is just 8 hours of classroom. If guys want to come and understand what gear to get, understand fundamentals, understand ballistics, and like a deep dive in ballistics, and understand wind calling, what's that process? This is 8 hours of just classroom, right? That gives them an opportunity to maybe get the gear they want, understand the information, come to the second class, which is fundamentals on the range. In this class, we're going to review the fundamentals again. In that day, we're going to, in the morning, mostly work at shooting 100 yards, working on fundamentals, proper grip, trigger control, breathing, and trying to get us to shoot smaller groups at 100 yards, right? I usually want guys to be able to shoot at least under an inch at 100 yards. And I've had a lot of people come to me with a rifle that they're shooting at that 1.5 inch, 2 inch type of rate. And by the time we change their fundamentals, get them behind the rifle right, we see that group come down. In the afternoon, we talk about ballistics, ballistic calculators, and then we go out and shoot out to distance, collecting information. And at the end of the day, true up a ballistic calculator on your phone so that anywhere you go in the world, you can put in a new temperature, pressure, humidity, as long as you have the same ammunition, and be able to use your system out to distance, right? That's the second level class. And then the third level class is a positional class. That's where you can come to this class and learn, instead of just shooting off of a bench or off your belly prone, how do you build a position from a rock, a tree, a fence post? How do you get out of such a stable position into something a little more wobbly, still manage wobble, manage recoil, and watch what happens downrange. This is a big part of long range precision shooting, is you have to be able to watch what happens downrange. Where did your bullet go? Where did you miss? And then maybe think about why you missed, or be able to follow it up with the second round and make that correction, right?
Yep.
So just apart from learning the fundamentals, the next part now is really application, field application. Is it hunting? Is it competition? Whatever it is, to be able to make that system work for you and be able to drive it and see what happens. And that I think is a big place that a lot of shooters miss out on. I call it a shooter does a prairie dog, and when they're shooting, the gun goes bang, and then they look over top of the scope and they go, "Where'd that go?" Right? And they talk to their buddy, "Where'd that go?" And someone's got to tell them, right? But if you're properly behind that gun and you can control that recoil impulse straight back, straight forward, there are times with my rifle system in competition, I actually watch the bullet fly to the target. You can watch the vapor trail through the scope, and I can see exactly where it goes and know it's going to hit the target before it even gets there, right? That's the next level. And that's getting into the competition place. If you want to come try the precision rifle series type of shooting, right? For guys that like to just hunt, or for guys that like to just have a lot of fun, I think that competition scene is pretty important. A lot of hunters overlook it as, why would I go do that in the middle of July when I'm just going to go hunting in October or November anyway? Well, this June, July, August time frame is a chance for you to hone other skills, right? Hone target acquisition. So when you have an animal opportunity, to be able to find your target faster, be able to manage that recoil, see what happens, be able to build positions awkwardly or quickly, those kinds of things. So the Precision Rifle Series gives you year-round training for that big hunt that you want to go to, or that competition you want to go to, always keeping your trigger finger ready, always keeping your fundamentals up to par. And sadly, for me, I really think shooting so much PRS is kind of taking the fun out of hunting, For me, now it's like, hey, there it is. That's the one I'm after. And in about, 3 minutes, I can build a position, range it, fire that round out there, hunt's over. It's kind of like, could have been a little bit more fun, but it is always great to, when it goes well and it's easy and it makes things happen. But so trying that competition side of things. Here in Iowa, again, we don't have a lot of it, right? If you go down to Missouri, Missouri's a rifle state. They have probably 2 different rifle competitions going on their state every single weekend. So here, we had a couple guys in the state that were putting on competitions, and now I've started kind of picking up after them once they've moved on to do other things, and I'm putting on competitions now. And so I've organized what we call the Iowa Precision Rifles matches, IPRM. And these matches are PRS-style matches, but are designed for brand new shooters, the guys that have never done this before that want to try it. So our course of fire is very basic for people to get their feet wet and figure it out and give it a try. At every match, we have a basic course of fire, and then we have an advanced course of fire for the guys that are experienced. And this gives us an opportunity for the advanced guys to show up and shoot with the basic ones and try to mentor them, help them, coach them get through a type of match, right? And what's this match look like, right? So I kind of want to read a course of fire here that we did last month and just give you an example of a stage that we had there.
Yeah, do that. Give us some context, because there's so many people listening that may not have a full understanding of what you're talking about. And when you mention things like the recoil management, the technology today is so much better. Watching this bullet, the exterior ballistics, watching this path the bullet takes, people are listening to this right now going, oh, I don't know. No, that's legit. You can do that. If you know what you're looking for, you get on it, you'll see it. So please talk to us about this.
So at a PRS match, PRS style match, right? Those matches, you're going to shoot somewhere between 8 and 10 stages a day. And at each stage, the match director will give you a course of fire written, something like this, where it tells you a lot of information. Here's the process you have to do, the props you have to shoot from, that kind of thing, right? So here was an example where we shot off some rocks, and the course of fire here reads from standing, port arms position, which is just standing with your rifle pointed up, magazine in, and bolt back. At these matches, we have quite a bit of safety protocol we have to follow. There's a lot of firearms there, a lot of things going on, so we got some safety stuff, and that bolt back is one of them. On the engage command, shooter will build a prone position, engage the target, engage the TYL. Oh, sorry, let me read the right course of fire for the right stage. It's always an important part. On engage command, the shooter will build a position on top of a rock and engage target 1 with 4 rounds, then move to a second rock and engage the same target with 4 rounds. That's the basic course of fire. Fairly simple, not a lot of movement. The advanced course of fire, on the engage command, let's see, engage the target with 2 rounds from 4 different rocks, right? So we have the same number of rounds to fire, but you have to move a lot more, and the rocks become more difficult. You can't just use the big easy rocks anymore. In the advanced position, you have to get to the smaller rocks, right? Now,
so how far away was the target in that example, maybe?
That example, that target was 460 yards away, and it was a 12-inch circle.
Okay.
Right? So, again, IPRM matches, we have fairly large targets because these courses of fire are designed for new shooters. If I went to a 2-day PRS match at 460 yards off of rock like that, that's probably going to be an 8-inch circle. Right? So those targets get smaller when you start shooting the big national level competition stuff.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a stage, and we're going to give you 2 minutes to do your shooting, right? So now you're also on a clock to get it done and manage your gear, build your position, manage your wobble, manage your recoil, see where things go, and get your rounds down range. Adding the clock perspective of it adds a little stress, right? It's kind of funny how everyone's like, yep, I'm super prepared. As soon as that timer goes beep, you kind of forget what your own name is, right? So some people really struggle with that, and it's getting used to that. And this is the stress level that you can be taught, so that when you decide to go hunting, all of a sudden, hey, there's something we need to go after. You don't get anxiety right away and get flustered and everything goes crazy, where this kind of streamlines your process. You understand it. So that's a typical stage, right? At these matches, there's going to be usually around 50 people there, and we're going to divide up into squads. So every squad, we're going to have 5 squads, about 10 people a squad. And that squad is going to go work from stage to stage to stage and work together as a team to be able to solve the problem of how much wind should I hold for this target? What's the best positions to build? How do I do this efficiently? And it's kind of a group of guys that just work together. Now, you're not being scored as a team, but usually in that squad, you've got some guys that work together to try to make it easier. So going to shoot 8 stages like that at an IPRM match. And our targets at an IPRM match can be anywhere from 250 yards to 1,100, right? So we've got quite a distance that we work with. I would say 80% of our shooting is somewhere in that 300 to 600 range. That's where most of your targets are at. And most of the targets are going to be 2 minutes of angle-ish, right? So at 600 yards being that 12 or 14-inch circle. In some stages, we have 5 targets up there at 600 yards, and they go from a 12-inch square down to about a 5-inch circle. And as you know, as you're shooting, each one's getting smaller, and you got to be able to hit that next target smaller. So the precision rifle series, or that style of match, is born from military training, right? It was originally how the military, they would run these courses to be able to develop their snipers into better shooters and things like that. But now, as the sports become more mainstream and more civilian based, we've lost a lot of the military-esque things out of it, right?
Sure.
So in the course of fire, we actually give you the range to the target. We give you the target size, and we tell you exactly how to shoot it. Where originally the game would have been, hey, from this position, you need to engage that target, and then they had to do all of that work, right? So that's kind of where it's born from and how it works, and it is a lot of fun to shoot. So the IPRM matches, they're for new shooters, and we have one a month. Usually it's the first Sunday of every month, and they bounce around a little bit throughout a couple of ranges. Right now in the state, we have 4 or 5 ranges that are running a PRS-style match that we can go to. There's 2 in South Central Iowa. There's 2 in Eastern Iowa. There's 1 in North Central Iowa, and 1 way in Northeast Iowa that's doing it. So that's the PRS type series, where we're going to prescribe what you have to do, give you target distance, and give you this 2-minute time, right? For the guys that want to do the hunting type of situation, there's also a series out there called the NRL Hunter. I don't know if you've heard of this one before. Yep. So a little bit different style, more directed toward hunters that want to hone skills for the fall and be better at that, right? For them, it's the same idea. You're going to divide up in groups. You're going to shoot about 10 stages a day, but these stages are blind. They don't give you the range to the targets, and they don't show you where the targets are. And this is part of what you have to do on the stage. So for them, when the timer goes off, beep, your time starts now, they're gonna bring you around a corner, and they're gonna say, here's an orange stake, this is where you're gonna stand at, and here's your blue stake, and here's your red stake, and this is your limit. Your targets are within this pie shape, kind of like your buddy says, hey, look at that, your target's there, right? Or look at that animal.
Sure.
That's what they're doing. Now you have to find your targets, range your targets, do your data, and then shoot those targets. In that system, it's a 2-shot system where if you hit the target the first time, you get 2 points. If you miss it the first shot and you hit it the second time, you get 1 point. And if you miss it both times, move on because that animal ran away. That's the idea, right? And they only have a couple scenarios that they have set up. And going into it, hey, this is 4 targets I got to shoot from 1 position. That's what they give you for your stage prep. 4 targets, 1 position. Now you're going to go to your position. You got to find 4 targets. I'm going to engage them. Or it might be 2 targets, 2 positions, or 1 target and 4 positions. That's the only 3 scenarios you can have: is 4 targets, 1 position, 2 targets, 2 positions, or 1 target, 4 positions. So on the hunting end, that really makes you hone how you stow your gear, how you set your gear down, how you shoot from a tripod, how you're able to set your rifle down, set your backpack down, be able to pull your binoculars out to look real quick. How do you set that up? Then pull your rangefinder out, or is your rangefinder in your binoculars? How do you range correctly? Because a lot of times they'll set the target up right in front of a bush, right? Got all this information behind it. And unless you range exactly that steel plate, you're going to catch the hill behind it, or the bush behind it, or they might skyline it, so there's nothing behind it, right? And your rangefinder might not be able to quite pick up that target. In that competition, targets are anywhere from 150 yards to 800s, about as far as they go for that one, which is in that realistic type of hunting distance that you might get into. So
how often are you seeing? So how often are you seeing NRL Hunter comps in Iowa? I'm curious.
So up in Northeast Iowa and Decorah, there's a team there that they're running a monthly match there. So one a month. I could look those up. They just had a changeover of who owned that range or was running that range. The fellow that was doing it the last 3 or 5 years up there, he was doing them there. Got some new guys to come in, take it over, and they're doing it as well. At that same range, every year they have a national level NRL Hunter match where people come from all over the country to shoot in the competition. Last year in August, they actually had the national championship there, and we got to see the world's best show up for that competition, which was a lot of fun to have that happen. So the long range precision rifle sport here in Iowa is happening, right? We have PRS matches, we have NRL hunter matches, we have F-class matches, we have some varmint shoot matches going on. Like these are events are here, and if guys are interested, just trying to provide a place for them to find that competition, to find that training, to be able to get into it, right? So and now that some rifles are allowed for hunting in Iowa, I'm starting to see some guys kind of come that direction with wanting to do that a little more. You know, Iowa changed their legal deer cartridges for gun 1, gun 2 season, and they put out 3 rules you have to follow now. It's no longer a straight wall rule or a barrel length rule or a brass length, cartridge length rule. They got rid of all of that. And now they have 3 rules you have to follow, and it's your bullet diameter has to be from 0.350 up to 0.50. So that's like the 350 Legend up to almost a 50 cal, although the 50 BMG is 0.501, which knocks it out of the running. The second rule, the second rule, it has to have 500 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, which you can get that from a pistol. And then the third rule is it has to have an expanding tip bullet, so something that's not like a full metal jacket type of projectile, and we can use those for deer hunting. So the 35 Whelen, the 358 Winchester, 375 Ruger, any one of those are now legal for hunting in Iowa, and so this long range thing kind of is now coming to be a practice in Iowa that if you wanted to hunt that way, it is possible. I will say most of the cartridges aren't really that long range capable, and that's the idea of that rule, was to keep them a low slumbering, large, slow lumbering bullet that really doesn't go the distance like a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor would. So,
sure,
yep. I probably should touch on that in the PRS series. Most cartridges we're going to see show up there is going to be somewhere in the 6mm category, like a 243. A 6.5 Creedmoor or a 308. I have a lot of guys that call and say, "Hey, I got a 7 Rem mag. Can I bring that to the competition?" You probably can if you're prepared to shoot 80 rounds of ammunition in the next 6 hours, right? Like, but we really do limit it to 300 Win mag or less, just to save on the steel targets and that kind of thing. In the NRL Hunter series, that's an open gamut. Whatever you want to bring there, your 7 Rem mag, your 300 PRC, like any of those hunting type cartridges, that's what they're open to in those. So
yeah, it's fine. It's fine to bring magnums and use magnums to do magnum stuff. And I'm not saying that a PRS or something like that wouldn't respond well to a magnum, but I thought it was kind of funny. One of the times I sponsored the Sniper's Hide Cup, and I think it was, I don't know, maybe the first year or second year was out in Douglas, Wyoming, somewhere in that neighborhood anyway. We went out there, and there were people who were bringing some really serious stuff. I mean, very laser-like chamberings, right? It was kind of fun. I don't remember his name. He's a super gentleman, very humble. But he smoked everybody with a 308, and they were always like, "Well, you bring that pooch?" And I'm thinking to myself, well, something tells me he knows how to use it. So you don't have to have something that'll burn the barrel out and shoot like a laser if you know your weapon, and you can make distance and wind calls. So I mean, it's kind of what you're talking about, and the fundamentals of what you're saying that you build from the ground up with the people that are coming through your classes are what you're truly going to need to know, and that translates into performance usually if you can do your part. So it's kind of fun to listen to you talk about that, because it brings back all these memories of things that I haven't messed with personally. While my daughter is telling me that she wants to learn how to do that, I'm thinking, oh man, she knows daddy's soft spot. She'll have new rifles running out the wazoo, and I'll be poor again. So maybe that's just part of it. And you said guys quite a little bit, and I'm not trying to be a stickler, but are you seeing what ages of people are you seeing, and are you seeing women enter this shooting discipline or not?
Absolutely. And we're open to all of that, right?
Yeah,
I want to make sure that's clear. But we've had shooters as young as 6 or 7 years old come shoot our center fire matches.
Wow.
They're youth, and we know they're young, and usually we're running a pretty heavy rifle for match situations. So, hey, Dad, if you want to pick the rifle up, move it around, put them on target. We just ask to make sure that they're the one, seeing the target and pulling the trigger and having fun. So there was a couple from southwest Iowa for a while that they had 2 daughters that really liked to shoot competitions. So dad shot, the two daughters shot, and at that time they were probably 6 and 8. And so the girls had a lot of fun doing it. And yes, we do see women into the sport. Generally firearm sports are male driven, right? But we do see women into the sport that are coming to shoot matches with us. Women in the sport fall under the exact same course of fire as the men are doing, because there isn't much disadvantage, right? It's just movement with your rifle, manage wobble on target, shooting the shots, and doing that. In the precision rifle series, the big 2-day national stuff here, probably 6 years ago, they had a couple women that were winning 2-day matches. Regina Milkovich out of Utah, and then we had a youth female out of, I believe, Pennsylvania, that she was making boys cry. I mean, she was just beating the pants off them at matches, and it was a lot of fun. So, seeing, I would say, we're probably in that 5% of the matches are women or youth, that kind of thing. So, not a whole lot, but absolutely welcome if they want to come. Yeah, it's great. And the best part about long range shooting is this group of shooters is usually not the alpha male type. Sure, they're there to win. They're there to compete, but we all know we're actually competing against not each other, but the wind and the match director about how they write their course of fire. So new shooters are always very, very excited to see when someone's like, hey, what do you need? Do you need this? Do you want to borrow this? Can I help you? And turn around and help guys with win calls. Hey, here's what I had to do to hit that target. We're talking about it so that the next guys that are up are going to hit more targets. For some reason, the long range shooting community is just a group of very much helping people. What can I do to help you hit more targets? And I'll do that from anywhere from the very brand new shooter to, if I'm at a match where it's a guy that's probably going to beat the pants off me and his rifle goes down and I got a spare one, I'm going to give him the whole rifle, give him the ammunition to make sure he finishes the matches too, and probably get beat that way. But that's this group of shooters. A lot of people approach a competition as it's going to be an alpha male thing of macho ho, and then I beat you with this, and it just doesn't happen at the long range game because it's already hard enough the way it is, right? So, but women and children, absolutely having them show up for matches, and always love to have them around. So that fell out that at the Sniper's Hide Cup that had that 308. The biggest deal was he could probably see where his bullets landed way better than someone with a Magnum, right? When he missed 0.2 of a mil off of the side of a target, he was able to see it, measure it, move over, hit it on the next one. So
I'm not going to presume that, but I think that would be reasonable, number one. And number two, I just think that he was one of these guys, Ted, at least from my understanding, who just did a lot of practice. And if I remember right, well, actually, a couple of those guys that have won the Cup before are really good friends of mine. One of them is Rob Ormond, and Rob at that time lived somewhere in Connecticut, and he had a range that was near there. You know what the longest range he ever practiced to was? You take your wildest guess.
300. 200.
That's all he had access to. So he hammered his dope. He pulled all the data he could pull, and he was right down there with a micrometer, or dial caliper rather, just trying to figure out just what was happening here and there, whatever else. And then he took that data that he could build on 100 and 200 yard engagements, and all the data he could harvest, and then occasionally a few times a year was able to go someplace and compete, and then add a little bit more to it. But his continual shooting practice with the 308. I'm guessing it at maybe a 12 to 14 pound rig all in, was enough for him to go out west in a much higher elevation, lots of wind flying around, much longer engagements, and win the Sniper's Hide Cup. So the idea that you have to have access to really expensive Magnum equipment and a mile-long range in order to do work, in order to perform and practice and hone your craft, that's just not true. Those things may help. That's a possibility, but you don't have to have that stuff. I want people to know and understand that.
Yep. And in long-range shooting, that Magnum thing always comes up, right? They always want to have a Magnum for long-range shooting. And now we don't need a Magnum because we shoot because we can know the distance, right? A Magnum was a faster bullet. It shot flatter. You didn't have as much error in missing when you had an unknown distance, right?
Right.
So now that we have distance, we can absolutely know that. We have meters to measure the wind speed and direction, be able to have a little more science with our art.
Mhm.
Yeah, guys really can not have to practice at 1,000 yards all the time and be able to go to a match and be able to have some good fun. So.
Well, I think that some of that is probably born out of, and I shouldn't diss it. So that's not quite what I'm saying, but I think some of that is born from older thought that surrounds hunting and PBR, point blank range. So
Yep.
a lot of people would tell me when I was younger, oh, well, I don't really like using a 308 anymore because my PBR with this load is, I don't know, 280 yards. And if I went to something really, really fast, like a 6.5 284, my PBR, my point blank range would be almost 400. And so I'm like, okay, well, how would you know that? Are you ranging your deer? Are they wet? Are you doing this first thing in the morning when there might actually be dew on there first so that your rangefinder bounces back? Or how are you knowing this? Well, I don't really need to. I can guess that range. And I'm thinking to myself, I doubt that very much,
Right.
because a lot of people I go out there with, I'm like, how far you would think that is? And they'll tell you, or I'll make a guess, and we find out we're both wrong.
Yep.
So I think that the idea that you need a Magnum in order to perform is probably born of some older thinking, and we can move beyond that now. And I'm really glad that the tools are there. And frankly, they're not that expensive.
Mm-mm.
I mean, when I was buying my first laser rangefinders, I was saving up money just to buy them. And now really, really good equipment can be had for a fraction of what I paid 15 years ago, 20.
Yep. A really good rangefinder that'll range 1,000 or 1,200 yards now is under that $500 price limit, right? In that 300 and 400, really, if you wanted to, right? Like it's becoming easier, and there's no more need to guess at the range. My point blank range isn't a number I even know, because once I range the target, I'm going to dial my turret to it, aim right at it, and it's over with, right?
Yeah, I don't have to buy that pair of GeoVids, and slap down $2,600 anymore. It's not like that.
Right.
But anyway, I do have one quick question before you move on. Are you seeing any interest in NRL 22?
So 22 isn't a part of that I'm into.
Right.
Just hasn't rang home for me. But yes, I have a ton of friends in the PRS that are also shooting the PRS 22 series and the NRL 22 series. Yep.
Okay.
There's actually a fella here. So what was that? Sorry.
What crossover is there between the two? So I want people to understand that.
Surprisingly, almost every piece of gear, other than the ammunition and barrel, right? Okay. Guys that are running the NRL 22 series now are running the same chassis, the same actions, a different, a barrel chambered for 22 long rifle, the same scopes that we're running in center fire. The guys that are really serious about the 22 series stuff are running equipment and gear just right at the level of what the center fire guys are running. Mm-hmm. Now at the 22 level, there are also a lot of people show up with a 10-22 with a nice scope and have a lot of fun with it, right? Yeah, great. And some of those guys can compete pretty well with them to keep up. Here in the state, I think we have there's a series down in southern Iowa. There's one in northeast Iowa that I know are running monthly matches for the 22 series as well. So if it's more your style, not to have to reload or buy expensive ammunition, if you want to, get a relatively or a better 22 ammunition than probably what the old Remington green box was, but something a little better with lower ESSDs that they have matches all the time. And at those matches, the PRS matches, they're pushing 22s out to that 250 yard type of range, giving you a fairly healthy target to be able to get there. But a lot of fun in the 22 world as well. There's a shooter here in Des Moines that actually just went to the NRL 22 finale that was in Idaho. And I believe he might have placed in the top 20 there. I'd have to look that one up. But some guys here in the state that run around the country doing the 22 stuff as well. We had they've started the International Precision Rifle Federation now, which is a worldwide competition for PRS series and 22 series. Okay. So every 2 years, or every 4 years, they have a center fire match, and every 2 years they have a rim fire match. And We had some guys from, I may have been in Wisconsin or Illinois, we're here real close, but a couple of years went over to Italy and shot 22s for that type of match. So yeah, it's alive and well, and 22 is a lot of fun to show up and just and plink away all day. And someone gives you a course of fire and target distances, and it's the same thing as what center fire is. So yeah. Yep.
You wouldn't think that it'd be that hard, but it's tough. I mean, I built up a rimfire trainer to mimic my full-size rifle, and I think that I talked myself into that just because I said that I was going to train that way. I didn't do that. I shot, or willy-nilly, whatever else. But sometimes you have an excuse to go buy something to build it up. But anyway, I remember shooting that at relatively close distance, so 100 and 200. And then I have a friend / customer, and he was telling me, "Oh, you should come over to my place, check this thing out." So I did, and he was shooting his. It was a relatively heavy weapon. I'm maybe 12, 13 pounds without a scope by the time he was done, but he was shooting pretty routinely to just like 380 or 385 yards with it. And unbelievable range with the rimfire. Now he let me drive it and I couldn't do anything near that. I mean, I was terrible. But he may have had the home field advantage, if you know what I'm saying. I'd been shooting that target for a long time. I knew the wind and his little pasture really well, usually. But I could not believe the performance that some of these guys are getting out of their rimfires. And like you said, some of these aren't that expensive. You can go a long ways with something that you don't have to spend a ton of money on. So I just enjoy watching people get out and shoot. I've enjoyed seeing the kids in my daughter's SASP, or Action Shooting Club, do that. And so, I mean, all these kids are out there shooting rimfire pistols and rimfire rifles, and there's a few that are shooting center fire. But I don't know. I've just enjoyed watching these people come into new shooting disciplines, or coming into range use and firearm use, and watching the joy on their faces when they perform. It's been a lot of fun. I'm sure that what you're doing, Ted, when you're doing things with accuracy dynamics and you're running these matches, I have no doubt that that's very gratifying for you. I'm very glad for you.
Yeah, it is. I've really enjoyed it. My only sponsor I have is my 40-hour-a-week job that I have to go to make sure I can go shoot on every weekend, right? So that's
yeah. Sometimes it's thankless, but what else do you want us to know?
Let's talk about a few things that I put together every year and put out on the Facebooks and the social medias for everyone, pretty much for free. I don't know if you've seen this yet, or if you can read that guy, but here's something you'll find online. There kind of comes in map of Iowa. Here's a map and contact information for all the long-range rifle ranges in Iowa. Most of these are private ranges, but if you call the owners and say, "Hey, I want to come rent the range for a day," they've got a way to get you in and be able to hunt, or not hunt, but shoot. And these ranges on the list are all 500 yards or more. So that's something that if Iowa Firearms Coalition wanted to have, I'm more than happy to send you guys a copy of if you wanted to put it up anywhere. On the other side of that paper is usually, here's a whole list of center fire rifle matches in the state of Iowa happening, right? Anywhere from March all the way through October. Being able to show people where those matches are at, that they're happening, if you want to come try them. So just information for those two, right? Another one that I put out this.
Are these listed on your site? Are they linked from there?
No, they are not on my website. Most of these are on a Facebook page that's called the Iowa Precision Riflemen's.
Okay.
I'd have to look that one up for sure. I'm not remembering the name real quick for me, but the Iowa Rifleman page. Yep. This here is a schedule for our IPRM matches. You'll see the first Sunday of every month. The location and kind of a quick rundown of what those matches are going to be and what they entail. And if anybody's interested in trying an IPRM match, this year is the first year that we actually have loaner rifles available. We have a 6.5 Creedmoor, all set up for matches. Sierra donated free ammunition for that rifle. So if you want to reserve that rifle for a match, come try this sport. We'll get you the rifle, we'll get you the equipment, we'll get you all the data, and you'll be able to dial the scope to distance, shoot a match with us. It's a $40 match fee, and then the rifle and ammunition's free. We have two other rifles that we also have that we loan out for that system. And those have a little bit of a rental fee and some ammunition costs because we got some guys that are doing that on their own to help provide that for guys. So that IPRM match series is a really good opportunity. And then the last one is just a quick flyer that has all my class dates and things coming up. Those are also on my website for the class dates and that kind of thing. So if guys are really interested in getting into the long range precision class, August 9th, I have a class coming up that is just the classroom system. 8 hours of classroom to understand the whole gamut of gear, fundamentals, ballistics, wind calling, and that class is going to be at Crossroads Shooting here in Des Moines area. So just an opportunity right there locally to get started. I've done this class in Des Moines, I think 3 years in a row now, and usually had pretty good turnout for those. So if you're looking for ranges, I can help you there. If you're looking for matches, I can help anyone out there. If you're looking for more information about long range shooting and getting into it or learning it for yourself, that's what Accuracy Dynamics is all about, spreading the information and helping guys get there. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. There's a contact form there on the website. Always open to anyone email me about information or questions about matches or competitions or gear. Like, as long as I don't tell my 9 to 5 boss that I'm answering emails some days, usually it's an okay thing. But I try to keep up with everyone there and help spread the word. So, yep.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's very good. We've encompassed quite a little bit. I think we got farther than what I thought we might. Unfortunately, you've left 90% of the things untouched. There's a lot more to go over. Would you be interested in coming back and visiting us again, Ted? Because to be honest with you, I think we've scratched the surface here. What I'm toying with doing, and I'll just ask you live here, what I'm toying with doing is to bring back some guests that have evoked responses from some of the people watching. And like, for example, some guys watching what we're saying, and he's, well, you should have asked him this, or you should have said this, or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, great. I'll ask those questions and have him on again. Do you think that you'd be willing to maybe bring a third party on, maybe a student, somebody that you had brought through that started with a perception that you were able to change and them talk about something very personal to them that they came from point A to point B or beyond? Or is there value in that so that people can have a personal relate? I wonder if that's the kind of thing that somebody might respond well to. What do you think about something like that?
Yeah. I'm certainly open to doing any of that. I've got, as you're saying it, 4 or 5 names came to mind. I'm like, I bet they'd sit down with us and have a conversation. Or if you just want to have me back and we can dive deeper into long range stuff, if people want to talk more about ballistics or reloading or, the actual process, what it takes to get long range shooting done, I'm always happy to be a good source and come on the show with you and help you out. Yeah.
Well, what I find most people response is basically, that's either not for me or I couldn't do it. Well, okay, well, why do you think it's not for you? And sometimes you find out it's just something that they're unfamiliar with, so they assume that they can't. Or the other crowd is, well, I don't think I could do that. I wouldn't even know how. Well, you know what? It's been my experience that most of these people are really, really passionate, and they're very willing to help you. Maybe I could help you with some gear. Maybe you could try mine on and see what you think. Maybe a few of these things will help you get an idea of what you may need and what you may not. How are you going to feed this rifle? Well, okay, you could set this up to eat match goodies that are mass produced. Or you could say, well, you know what? I think I could try reloading myself, but I really don't know how. Great. There's people who will walk you through that too. They'll show you how and where to source things and what you need to do. And if you're only loading for a single caliber, or and you're neck resizing and some of these basic things, Ted, you and I both know that isn't very hard at all. So these are well within your capability if you've got a place to do it and you can be consistent. Great. You're going to be competitive just like anybody else. So don't anybody out there think that you can't do these things. I promise you can. Most everybody that's out there doing it had their apprehensions to begin with too, and they've overcome them. So don't let things like that stop you from participating.
Yep. That's all good.
Ted, I'd like to have you give us the last word, and then I'll end our broadcast. So go ahead, let us know what we need to know in closing.
I think if someone's interested in the long range rifle thing, look me up on the website, right? I've got all my classes listed there, opportunities listed there, my contact information's there. Probably two people I'd like to thank for letting me do all this. One, Michael, for you bringing me on the show. I've watched the Iowa Firearms Coalition the last couple of years, been a member, I think 10 years now. Always very happy to see the work that you guys and your team is doing, and supporting every part of that. The other one I have to thank is probably my wife, because I'm gone almost every single weekend, and she lets me keep going, and it's pretty amazing that she supports me the way she does. So
having a companion supporter is how these things happen. It's funny, when I have guests on, they thank me a lot, and I try and remind them it's not me. I just happen to be there when the bus stopped. You know what I mean? It's a group of volunteers that are doing this, that are selfless. But what's funny is there are very few of our volunteers that are actually single. Most of these people have a spouse or significant other, and those people are doing what they need to do to backfill and support those volunteers that go out and get things done for everybody else. It's really amazing how that works. So to Ted Hoeger's wife, kudos and congrats. Thank you for supporting Ted. I don't mean that as a joke. I know that spouses put in a lot so that their other halves can go do things that they're passionate about. And it means a lot. So thank you out there, everybody that are supporters, because it makes a difference. Join IFC. That's iowafc.org. We need your support. None of these things happen without you. They don't happen in a vacuum. So we benefit from the precious pennies that you give us and donations, and certainly membership. We want to work back and forth with you. Again, check out those trusted partners. There are tons of discounts that will immediately pay you back for the cost of your membership. So there's a ton of value out of there. Don't forget that. And Ted Hoeger with Accuracy Dynamics. Now, it should be mentioned, Accuracy Dynamics, plural, .us. So we want to make sure that we get that right so people can come visit you. But tremendous local resource. Thank you again for spending some time today, Ted. I really appreciate it.
all right, thank you, Michael.
Bye now.